It's fear that stops us, right? It's the fear of failure. It's the fear of what will people think about me. And when you don't care about that, it doesn't matter.
Introducing The Vixen Voice, a podcast for ambitious women entrepreneurs ready to move into their feminine essence, live their truth, and unlock their full potential. I'm your host, April Roberts, and each week I'll be interviewing inspiring women who decided to take a leap of faith to pursue their dream. Women who believe that they were born for something bigger. Hey there, just popping in quickly. It's April Roberts, and I wanted to thank you for being a loyal listener of the Vixen Voice. It means so much to me. And because of that, we're going to be popping in these little announcements because I want you to be the first to know what's going on at the Vixen Gathering. So if you haven't done so yet, click the link below and check out the Vixen Founders Collective. The members who are already in are raving, and we would love to have you join us in the ultimate business consulting, networking, and personal growth community for Gen X female founders. See you there. Hi, and welcome back to another episode of the Vixen Voice. Today is going to be a fun episode. My guest is Melanie Chiarella Johnson. She is a powerhouse media mogul and entrepreneur. Melanie is also the owner and founder of Elite Online Publishing. And here's something we're going to talk about today. They have published over 3,000 books and all of them #1. I know so many of you are like, if I do a book, how do I get to #1? So stay tuned in. So we're going to talk about Melanie's journey along with that. And Melanie is a busy woman. She's also the co-host of the Elite Expert Insider and the Elite Publishing Podcast. And in fact, that's how I met her, because her partner, Jen Foster, interviewed me on Elite Expert Insider. And then we all had a convo because Melanie's in Houston and I'm in Houston. So yes, as of next week, technically, but by the time this airs, I'm in Houston. So we'll have to get together in person. So Melanie, welcome. So excited to have you today.
Thank you for having me. I'm just thrilled to be here and great to meet you.
Yes, I love it. I love it. Love it. So I really love to start, Melanie, with our guest to begin with. That's your first time on the Vixen Voice. So I'd love to hear, obviously, you've had so many layers to your career, and I hope we get to dig into that today. But I'd love to hear what's a pivotal story that really helped create this amazing multifaceted woman sitting here with us today.
Well, first of all, I love the title, Vixen Voice. I just think that's an amazing title for a woman's empowering podcast. And I hope that I can do that today. I've had, like a lot of people's lives, ups and downs, and you get trials and it's figuring it out. I used to say it's like a Rubik's Cube. All of a sudden someone messes up your Rubik's Cube and you got to realign the colors to get there. I think one of the things where I really was a pivotal moment of really kind of one of my superpowers was I used to own and operate and be vice president of 2 TV stations, one here in Houston that we started from scratch, and then one in Dallas that we bought later. Then my husband and I parted ways, and then he decided months later to file for bankruptcy. So everything was frozen. I had no child support, no money, nothing was coming in. And it was 2008 going into 2009 when everything was crashing. And I was fortunate enough to have these 2 large houses, both of which I was the general contractor on. So we had a 23,000 square foot house in Houston. And then I had a 13,000 square foot summer home in Michigan. So they were pending foreclosure at the time. And I was really blessed to run into a gentleman that was a brother of a friend of mine, that he gave me documentation to file civil lawsuits on both of the houses to help delay the foreclosure. But what I did in that time was the Michigan house, something had just come out called VRBO, Vacation Rental by Owners. It wasn't VRBO by then. There was no Airbnb. And if you rented a house, it was usually with a real estate agent. So the realtors told me the house is too big, you want too much money, it's never going to rent. So a realtor rented 1 week that following summer, and I created a website, put it on Vacation Rental by Owner, VRBO, and I sold out the whole summer. and I did it for 10,000 a week. And this really smart woman who was a friend of mine up there, a wife of a doctor, said, you should upsell. Like, don't include the master bedroom, because there were, a bunch of bedrooms up there, and charge an extra $2,000 for the master bedroom suite. So, she was building in my upsells to have access to things. And then I thought, well, if I did it there, maybe I could do it in Houston. And Houston at the time only had like apartments, condos that were listed there. So I was the only mansion that was there. And I remember thinking, well, it wasn't renting right away. And then I asked myself, is this house ready to be rented? If someone said, tomorrow, Melanie, I want to rent your house for a week or a weekend, I thought, no, it's really not. I need to streamline this. So once I got it all ready, then I got my first rental for $10,000 for a weekend for that house. And then that house started generating income. And then I started using it and renting it out for events, for photo shoots. And both houses were generating 6 figures for me at the time. And that's how I made my living between then and getting my way through the bankruptcy. But then at the end of the story, the houses both got foreclosed. So then I was homeless and jobless. So, you have to reinvent yourself.
Yeah. I love that. And thank you for sharing that, because, a lot of our audience are women at a stage in their life where they're wanting something more. And so a big thing I help with my clients do is make that leap, like take that leap of faith. Like, okay, I can leave my cushy corporate job. I can leave my legal job, and I can do this, right? I can go follow my passion and build my business. And usually smartly we'll build the one up to a certain level so they can jump. But it's almost impossible to work an intense job and build a business up to the same level to replace your income, right? So I love you sharing the story, because in different ways, I think so many women can relate. So obviously you had necessity and urgency on your side, but where did you find the courage? Like, what did you dig into in yourself at this period of your life? Or maybe you always had it to help you come up with these creative ways really to survive. I mean, it sounds crazy because we're talking about a $23,000 and a $13,000 home, but you needed to put food on the table, right?
Yeah. And, I think you're right. It's the urgency. Your back is against the wall is one thing. And my priority was my kids. So your why is always real important. If you don't have a strong why, like, I want to start this new career. I want to do an online e-commerce business. And then there's no urgency, or there's no why really pushing you. You have to know why you want to do it, who you're doing it for. So start with the outcome and the result in mind. And then it's just having that idea factory of what can I do? And I really say you have to educate yourself. So I started educating myself. I went to the SBA here in Houston. How do I make a website? How do I market this new business that I just fell into? And, digital marketing was still relatively new in 2009, 2010, and it was constantly changing. So I was just gaining education all the time of how could I do this? And I thought it was the future. Being with a television background, I mean, television was iconic. That was printing money in, 60s, 70s, 80s, even the 90s. And then the internet came along and changed everything. And I realized I didn't want to stay in television because I felt television was going to be a dinosaur. It's taken a while for it to get there. But as you can see, the TV shows, I mean, I was watching an interview with Cher. She said her show is getting 27 million views. Now a TV show is lucky if they get 1 million views. I mean, we're talking like the Today Show might only get 1 to 3 million on a really busy news cycle day. It's changed dramatically, where Joe Rogan is getting, hundreds of millions of views. So it's changed dramatically. And I think you just have to hone in, educate yourself, be positive. Right? And you were saying, well, it's hard to do both things at the same time. It really is prioritizing your time. I mean, I was a single mom at that time, right? Having to run that. I was in court all the time with this bankruptcy. So that was like a full-time job, being in court. And then starting this new little adventure that I knew nothing about and educating myself at the same time. I'm not going to say that I wasn't exhausted and I wasn't stressed out, because I was, but a lot of it I think was because of the discord that was going on between my former husband and I with this financial situation. But I think if you surround yourself with strong people and coaches around you and family and friends that encourage you and that are positive. That was my other secret sauce. There was a point when the homes were foreclosed on, and I had to move first the 13,000 square foot house. All of that moved down to Houston, right? Everything that I didn't sell with the house, I had to, or give to the bank, sell to the bank, I had to move down to Houston. So that like filled everything up. Then I had to move out of Houston. So I went from a 25,000 square foot house that had a bunch of furniture from another house and clothes and things to a 4,500 square foot house. It was just, it was unbelievable trying to get rid of things and deciding what I was just keeping whatever was left over. And I knew at that point I could not handle it by myself. I needed coaching. I needed someone there to be with me, to walk me through priorities, structure it, and be organized and keep my head screwed on straight. So having that, and I'm really blessed that I have a super great family, great parents, siblings, and that really was helpful as well. And friends too.
Yeah, and I love it. And it's okay to step away from the people that aren't supporting you in that moment. You know, just did an interview earlier this morning. I was talking about when I was leaving my husband due to his drug addiction, and then therefore also you get emotionally abused when someone's addicted to something, right? I remember calling girlfriends like, "Hey, this happening. Oh, I'm sorry. My husband and I are doing well." Okay, well, we don't need to continue this conversation. Like, if I'm dropping this bomb, like, you learn quickly who are your real friends and who are not when you go through something, right?
Well, and you know what? It's not necessarily the real friends. Even sometimes when you've gone through things, you're like, I'm not in a space to go through that with you. I support you.
That's true.
I'm your friend, but I don't, like, if someone were to ask me to do that when I was going through my stuff, I wouldn't have the capacity to, and I've been in stages in my life, even where I was dating people, it's like, hey, the bomb just dropped. I don't have enough room for you. Because you need to have attention and get my attention, and rightfully so. And I just know it's just too thin, and you're gonna be unhappy. So I need to step back. And so I think that happens too. And some friends just aren't in the mix, and maybe they come back later. So it's not that they're bad or they're not really your friends. Some might not be. Some might only be there. You know, in my situation, they were only there for the glory when the money was flowing. And then when the money stopped flowing, they're not interested in you anymore. So you do kind of weed that out. But I think you have to give some of them some grace and really know what was going on with them at the moment. And it's not easy to walk into someone who's having a bomb going on in their life. It really isn't.
No, I totally agree. And I believe in giving everyone grace, but I like to say sometimes we can love people from afar.
Yes, that's true. Very true. Yeah.
And you did the most important thing by putting your oxygen mask on first. Of course, you know, you had your son to deal with, and you were a mom and you were taking care of things. So that came priority. So it's amazing how that mama bear energy can really make you a superhuman.
It does. Yeah, for sure. I look back sometimes, I'm like, how did I do all that? You know, but you do.
I know, right? Did you wake up one day and say, okay, now I just want to sleep for 10 days?
Yeah. I really just want, like, can someone just book me a hotel on the beach and just give me room service? That's all I really want, you know?
I'm totally good. Yeah, I'm a fan. I like to say, you know, when you're going through a tough time, build in crash time, because it's okay to honor the crash afterwards, because if you keep going through it, it's unhealthy.
And even during, you can honor the crash during and take a break, you know? Remember to take that time and take care of yourself. What I've learned recently is really when you show up better, when your bucket is full, and you're feeling healthy, right? You're getting good sleep. You're taking your vitamins. You're exercising. You're feeling good and strong, and you're loving on yourself and giving you that time. When you show up with that bucket full, everybody around you starts to feel full. You're showing up in the best space for your kids, because if you're grumpy, I was doing insurance because it's the open marketplace, and I was doing it for my son, and he's like, I apologize if I'm a little grumpy. I've had to do, you know, it's this time of the year and blah, 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 blah. So he was already telling me his bucket was low, right? But, you know, so it could rub off on someone. So when you show up with your bucket full, things don't bother you as much. If someone, you know, doesn't talk to you the right way, it kind of falls off the sides more than, oh, that hurt so much, because you're vulnerable. So I think it's real important to remember to fill yourself up and be that person that's filled of joy and happiness and having a great day. There was a couple weeks ago that I was on these Zoom meetings, and I'm like, well, how is everybody? I was like, I'm okay. I'm okay. And I'm like, you're just okay? Like that kind of sucks if you're just okay. How do we get you from okay to I'm feeling great? I'm so glad to be alive today. It's wonderful.
Yeah. No, I agree. You and I are alike in that my dad cracks me up. One time he told me when I was younger, he was like, it really bothers you when people around you aren't as happy as you are. And I was like, well, I'm sad for them. Like, I want them to be experiencing joy, right? And so I want to invite them into my joy world.
And it's a choice. Being joyful is a choice. You can choose, because you could be, oh, I don't feel good, I'm grumpy, but you can still choose to be happy and be joyful.
100%. And everything in life is a choice. And when we understand that, it's ultimate freedom. Yeah. That's my philosophy.
So true.
Awesome. So, Melanie, here's what's exciting. This year, you are celebrating 10 years in business, which means by 2015, you had pivoted to the publishing world, right? So walk us a little through your journey from 2000. You said, what was it, 2009 and 10 when you were going through all this?
Right.
So how did you pivot? Like, what steps did you take to pivot and find your new career?
So I had a career in between there. I was doing some real estate redevelopment, and I hooked into some partners, and we were tearing down old houses here in Houston, which is kind of a common thing here in Houston, and then building some townhouses. And that was going pretty well. And then I was still educating myself on digital marketing because I was just fascinated by it. So I was going to these conferences, and a lot of the same people would show up. Like it was like, Mike Koenig's had a conference, and he would do it like 3 times a year. And then you start saying, oh, I saw you last time, and you start to create friends in a little group. And one of the people there was Jen Foster. And I had been on a hot seat and talked about that I had this timeshare, this villa down in the Dominican Republic. How could I market that? Because I could resell it, kind of, like a VRBO type of thing, and getting ideas for it. And so Jen was newly divorced, and she wasn't going to have her kids the month of June. I was not going to have my kids the month of June for the first time. And she goes, we should go to your villa. She goes, but we should make money. How can we make money? And they taught us how to publish books at these conferences. So she had published a couple books. I had published a book. So we thought, let's do a book writing retreat. So action. This is how you make things happen. So at that conference, Jen was a website developer and digital marketer already, right?
Yep.
She created a website for us. We created videos outside the women's restroom. We did videos to promote the book writing retreat. Canva had just come out. Only one person really knew what it was. No one had really heard of it. So this person at lunch was like, oh, I can create something for you on Canva. So she created Canva, and we did post. And next thing you knew, we had a book writing retreat in June. And we thought that was so much fun. We launched the books. They became #1 bestsellers. And we thought that might be fun to do like once a year. Maybe that'll be something we do. Well, people started calling me and asking me to lunch, for coffee. I didn't know you published books. I have a book. I need to talk to you about this. I told Jen, I think we have a business here. I mean, are you getting calls? Because I'm getting calls. So we decided to incorporate, and I told her, listen, we both said, this is our side hustle. She had a website and digital marketing company. I was doing real estate redevelopment. Well, my partners turned out to be thieves. They stole money from me. So that closed up, and I tell people my side hustle became my main hustle. And 10 years later, here we are.
I love it. I love that story. And I remember when I chatted with you and Jen before in a get to know you meeting, y'all talked about how you like to make quick decisions and take quick action. So that's absolutely an example of it. And And I love that you found the friendship. It's so funny because I know Mike Koenig, so it's hilarious how small the world is.
Yeah.
Anyway, I love it. So I love how you kind of stumbled into this business, but you know, I think that so many times people think things just happen to them, and we know that's not true. You saw an opportunity and you took action, right? Like you propelled yourself into the opportunity. So what tips would you give to maybe some listeners who are like, I really want to do something different, or I see an opportunity and they're experiencing resistance. They're not taking the action they need to go forward.
Yeah. And I'll give you an example. When Jen and I started, we said, oh, we should have a podcast. So we didn't write it down. Okay, we're going to do a podcast and let's put it
Yep.
on our list. Let's have a meeting about it next week. So we said, let's do it right now. So we came up with the name, came up with the logo, came up with everything. Like we took action and did it right now. And I'll give you another example because kind of going back to the education part, my son Nathan, he's like, well, I want to learn e-commerce. So he invested like $3,000 in an e-commerce class and started doing e-commerce, right? And learned he wanted to do real estate development like his mom. Well, he just wanted to do rentals. So we were doing low income rentals. We did one on our own together, like an experiment. And then he went and joined a group, got an education, and followed all the instruction. And he just learned by doing. So not everything's
Yes.
perfect. So sometimes take the risk. People are afraid, well, what if I lose money? What if what if it doesn't go right? But that's part of the education. So think about it. You pay to go to college. Like I tell his other young friends in their 20s, they're like, you paid $5,000 for a course to teach and mentors? And oh my gosh, you're crazy. And this one kid who told him this, he went to SMU. It's like 80 grand a year to go to SMU, right? And you're like, you're not going to pay $5,000 to learn, and actually he's making money as he's doing it, is teaching him something that he can do in real time and do it. And again, you make mistakes along the way. You might lose some money along the way, but you just have to keep going and pace the road and recorrect every time. And it's fear that stops us, right? It's the fear of failure. It's the fear of what will people think about me. And when you don't care about that, it doesn't matter. I was even thinking this morning, I have an eyeshadow in my drawer, and I'm embarrassed to say this, ladies, but that palette's been there for over 10 years. I'm like, I've had this palette since I moved in this house. That's 10 years old. Holy cow, what am I saving it for? And I have friends that are my age, two of them that I recently found out have cancer, and one is saying every day I make it to midnight, I'm grateful. And I'm like, yeah, and I'm saving this for what? Like, if my kids found this, they're like, trash, 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 they're going to throw all this stuff away. Use it. If you have good china, this is the other thing I love. I'm just going to tell women right now. So I have beautiful stemware. Everyone, you have wine glasses and pretty stemware.
Yep.
So I'm all about the stemware. So I'm having like my smoothie. It's going in my champagne glass. It's going in my Waterford glass. Enjoy the stuff that you have. Don't just keep it in your cupboards. Live for now. Live for the present, and just go for it. And you know what? Even if you don't succeed at it, you're going to learn something out of it. Like I tell my son, it's like, okay, if that didn't work, but that's a layer. You've now got a layer of that education that you're going to build on, and it might take you to do something else that's not even related to that, but now you have that experience, that education, and that little, ooh, that didn't go good, but now I know how to recover from it. So just go do it. That's all I can tell you.
Well, and a lot of times mistakes are your greatest motivators, right? Theoretically, if you understand a mistake, that's different than experiencing it. So I think you're hitting on like one of the biggest misnomers about entrepreneurship and business ownership is that I have to know everything and everything has to be perfect before I launch. It's impossible to know everything until you're experiencing, because there's so many layers, and perfection doesn't exist. So get over it. Like, it doesn't exist.
Yeah. And don't be afraid for what you don't know. I mean, Jen and I, whenever something goes wrong in our business, Amazon does something crazy, or, we didn't do something right, something fell through the cracks, we don't get down on ourselves. The first thing we say is, what can we learn from it? How do we readjust? How do we make a new process for it? And so it doesn't happen again, and learn and go to the other part. I would say like my weak point was probably running the financial part of it. I always liked that part, but when I was running the TV stations, I really was more overseeing the operations than the finance part, and I had to learn a lot of that. And I realized when I really had somebody who looked at what we were doing, I'm like, oh my gosh, this looks like Swiss cheese. Even though we had a bookkeeper, I'm like, oh, we need to like fill in these holes. And now I look back and I go, oh my gosh, we have filled in all these holes. Look at us. Look at all of these things that we've done. And this year we're really focusing on filling the holes of our systems, like our sales systems. We realized that we have places that people are like opting in, and then we have no follow-up system. Oh, is there a workflow with that? No. And you have all these tools, you have a CRM and you don't realize it does all these magical things, but maybe no one knows how to use it to make it happen. So to make that investment back into your company, I think you always have to reinvest back into your company and reinvest back into yourself. Like AI is so huge right now, and we've been using AI for 3 years, before it was even popular, and different parts of our business had it in it. So we have dove deep into the water going, how can we use this to make this better for our clients, make it better systems for us? And it's just been so fun to learn all these new things and be relevant. So I think that's the other part, is keep yourself relevant and be open to learning. So important.
Yeah, 100%. And I even want to go back to where you said you already foresaw TV would become a dinosaur, and you're 100% correct. We're seeing that. And it's interesting because I went to NYU broadcasting school for a summer because I wanted to be a journalist, and I was at Vanderbilt and they didn't have a broadcasting school. So I went to summer school. And when I started learning how to write, and I could already tell back then that basically as a journalist, you were a puppet, like you didn't get to do your own thinking. And so I was like, never mind, this isn't for me. And I always say this is like one of the best decisions of my life, right? I was like, so we get these glimpses and to honor it. But, I really want to honor that you saw that and acted on it, because again, and I think it's your nature to take action. I think so many people hesitate and say, but TV's always been great. It's going to continue to be great. Like, don't live in dystopia, right? So
you don't want to be Blockbuster. I tell people, don't be Blockbuster, with all of that too. And my thought was, everybody can have, back in 2009 and 10, when YouTube was out, I'm like, everyone can be their own TV station. There's no barrier to entry anymore when you're doing that. Yeah. And it's figuring out, and it's okay to try something, especially if you're younger, try it. And if it's not your thing, it's not your thing. And then you move on and find out what is your thing.
Yeah, I love it. So let's chat about your publishing company, because I love this with Elite Online Publishing, 3,000 books and all have hit #1. And, I was talking to, I think, Jen about this, and she was just kind of sharing what she feels is your secret sauce versus the big publishing houses. So, I run into this with clients. They have a book and it's like, am I going to self-publish? Am I going to go to a publishing house? Like, what type of publishing house? So, the world of books for many people is still like a mystery. So I'd love to hear, what do you feel that y'all do differently or bring to the table for anyone listening who might be, saying, what do I do with my book? Or I have an outline. What do I do next?
Yeah, that's another conversation, how to get it written. Right. So if let's assume that you have a book, and there's the demystifying of the publishing industry of traditional versus what we do is independent publishing and publish the book for you. And I will say straight off the bat, we have worked with multiple authors that are with traditional publishers because they don't know how to make a book #1. So, and the people we've worked with, they have over 1 million, 2 million people on their Instagram. One is even a pastor with 40,000 people in their congregation, and the book didn't hit bestseller. So they had to bring us in. So you're like, well, what are you doing different? Like, they had their strategy, they did it, which is old school strategy. And then we came in and then we did our strategy. And so I would say, first of all, like if you're doing it independently, you need to have a good book, right? And it can be more difficult if you don't have a big email list. But we've done it with people that were just starting their business. Like, hey, I'm a brand new entrepreneur. I've got like maybe 50 people on my email list. And we've even done it with that. But we teach them how to grow that and leverage that. And then we use our platform as well to promote a book. We just did a book yesterday, and it hit #1 in 3 categories. And we're hoping it'll hit international bestseller as well. So I would say the secret sauce, not that I want to give away my secret sauce, but part of it is
part you can give.
Yeah. So part of it really is knowing the categories, doing the research, having the right categories, the metadata, having the right keywords, the right words in the description, having a great book cover, and then, having a good book launch, making sure your book launch is reaching out people. Some people, even like I have CEOs of big companies, they're like, oh, well, I don't really want to email people that I'm doing my book. Like, they want to keep it a secret. And I'm like, well, if your child was having a baby or getting married, would you not tell anybody? Would you not have a baby shower or a wedding shower?
Yes.
And then people would just be like, you had a baby, your daughter, and why didn't you tell us? Like, I can't believe you didn't tell me. You know, you didn't have a party, you didn't have anything. So, I mean, it's a celebration, it's an accomplishment. And you have to think of it to get over that part of it mentally is your book has content in it that's going to help other people. It's not just self-grandioso. You're not writing a book about how wonderful I am. The books that we do, the authors that we take, their book has to be inspirational, motivational, or educational. And so we know that it's going to make the world a better place when it comes out. So you're really helping people to get to their next level. So I think if you have all of those things, and you have to have a strong team, it's hard to do it by yourself. You can, but I look at it this way. I equate it to remodeling a home or building a home. Like, let's say you're remodeling your bathroom. So either you have to learn how to be a tile layer, a painter, a plumber, an electrician, right? All of that, and watch YouTube videos and spend hours of learning. So you can do that, or you can hire someone who's done that, is an expert at it and does it all the time. And then you just get to sit back and do the fun stuff. Oh, gee, I want the book cover to be yellow and green. You know, I mean, that's the fun stuff that you get to do. It's like you just get to help decorate the house if you're moving in. So I think it's great if you have more money than you do time to hire the right people to do it. If you don't have the resources and you have a lot more time, then look at how to do that. And even sometimes then it's not quite a success. So I think those are kind of the two different things. And then we get the question all the time, April, was it really important to be a bestseller? Like, does it really matter? And I'm like, it does matter. I'll tell the story. You know, it took me 3 tries to become Miss Michigan. So, you know, I never really was like putting on my resume, I was 3rd runner-up or 1st runner-up, right?
Right.
But I put on there that I was Miss Michigan. So that makes a big difference. So you want to say that you have the title. You know, my brother Mark, he was a 4-time All-American and a 3-time NCAA champ, and that's what got him into the Wrestling Hall of Fame. If he had been, you know, placed 4th or 5th, he wouldn't have gotten into the Wrestling Hall of Fame. So, you know, it's the accolades always go to the winner. So we just launched a book recently, and it was about love and relationships, and he beat out the 5 languages of love. You get eyeballs now, right, of your book next to, so people who are looking for the 5 languages of love, your book is pulled up right above it. Oh, wow, what is this book? Maybe this book is something that I should be looking at. So it's getting your book placed with the best of the best versus you're down in the million ranking, you know, that you're lost in a sea of puddles and people never see you at all. And the other thing, when you hit bestseller, I would say it's like scoring a touchdown on the first play. And then you want not just selling books on Amazon, but how do you use your book to get the $10,000 consulting gig, to how to get speaking gigs, how to get on a board with your book, how to get new clients with your book, how to get media attention. That's the real secret of having a book and having that credibility. And I look at this like you have stars, celebrities, movie stars, people all the time writing books. Why are they doing that? Like Matt Rife, if you're like current, know who Matt Rife is, he's this new comedian that's blown up. Guess what? He is now launching a book. So people who are just, their careers just launched, they want them to do a book because then it keeps them relevant. You keep the momentum going. For movie stars, gosh, they haven't had a movie deal in a while. Let's write a book. I can do a talk show tour. I can be relevant and have a bunch of clips out there. So a book helps keep you relevant and makes you credible and gets people to know you better and know your expertise better. So like, gosh, I read April's book. I already feel like I know her. I already feel like I know, like, and trust her. And I know what she knows. So I'm willing to do business with her. I don't have to do a bunch of more research. I already know the research on her.
Yeah, I love it. No, when you're talking about like publishing a book, it makes me think of social media, which I think a lot of our listeners can relate to, right? Like if it's just you, yourself, and I, you're not going to get the viral reels on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. The algorithms are all different, right? Like the copy's different. Like you need experts that know each of these parts. In fact, I have a new client who's a social media strategist, and she does my social media. And then the other day I was like, okay, who's on your team? And And when we listed like all the different people on the team, it's crazy to think how, but that's how siloed you have to be because
Yeah.
to your point, everything's so nuanced in today's world, especially in digital marketing, that it's impossible to be an expert at everything. And so
Yeah.
I hear a lot your digital marketing background plays into a lot of success that you guys are reaching. And Jen was in that field as well. And the other thing that stood out to me is when people ask you, do I need to be a bestseller? It cracks me up. Like when I started a podcast, I was like, let me research what the top podcasts do. Okay, they publish 2 episodes a week. People ask me all the time, like, you have a lot of episodes. Why do you do that? Well, that's what the best does. Like, why wouldn't you like do the best? So yeah,
Right.
no, I totally love all that. And I just want to point one thing out because I want to hit on this again because there's so much mystery behind the book world. And I do think it's still extremely relative. And it's an amazing tool for your business and your expertise and your personal
Definitely.
brand, right? But I mean, I had a friend who she interviewed me for a book and I was like, oh, are you self-publishing independent or traditional? And she said, oh, I'm going with a traditional publisher. And I was like, okay, why? And she's very savvy with technical. And she said, well,
Yeah.
they're going to do the marketing for me. I don't have to worry. But as you're saying, they don't necessarily
they
know
don't.
how to do the marketing successfully.
I will tell you exactly what they do because, again, we've worked with both. Usually they'll run some Amazon ads. Period. That's usually it. And maybe some social media ads, maybe, but usually not. So the author is in charge of doing all the PR if they want to be interviewed on media. They're in charge of posting on their social media, doing all of that. They're in charge of really everything. The only thing, I'll go back because I know for sure they only ran some Amazon ads. That was it. So that's all they're going to do. And the Amazon ads, to me, and like people ask me, should I run Amazon ads for my book? I don't believe they're super effective. It takes a long time for your investment to pay off. Now, the book will sell. You'll make book sales, but you're paying for the ad. Usually what's happening is you're still in the hole. By the time you pay for the ads and the amount of books that sell, it still cost you X amount of dollars, whether depending how much you spend. I would say you're still in the hole anywhere from 10 to 50% by the time it's done. And usually it takes a good 6 months to a year to start to go, and you may never see it. It may just be a spend. So you just have to decide, is that where I want to spend my dollars? Or would I rather send 100 books that I can buy at my wholesale price, right, at the cost if you're doing it yourself? And would you rather send 100 books to a company that you want to get your foot in the door in, and you send it to every employee and they get it all in the same day? Would that be a better investment? Right? So to me, you have to decide where you want to spend your money. So anyways, yeah, the traditional publisher, all the money that they get is going out the door. So I was asking the question, what's the motivation for them to sell more books? Because literally they don't get any royalties till after they make all the money back for the publisher. So they get that money. They really need to spend it on selling books and making the book successful. So the publisher gets their money back. And if they decide not to do that as much, right, and spend that money and generate the Amazon book sales, because they're just looking at Amazon and Barnes & Noble, all the book sales, the motivation is to maybe get another publishing deal that they'll offer you more money for. So really, you have to keep working your butt off, and you're reaping the benefits but you're paying for it, for the PR, for all of that stuff and everything else too. So yeah, and it just, one of the conversations we had, I'll share real quick, was that they really focused on the hardback book to sell as many hardback books. And the reason why is because the more hardback books they sell, the better chance they have of getting in bookstores, physical bookstores. And I said, so where do you think the majority of books are sold? And this particular person thought 80% of them were sold at brick and mortar bookstores. And so the manager was on the meeting. She goes, no. Most of them are sold online. Most stores are sold online. So a bit of news I just did a video on yesterday. Costco's no longer going to sell books at their Costco's anymore.
Really?
So what does that tell you? Yeah. They're not. But now Barnes & Nobles, they have closed a lot of stores, are now saying they're going to open some new stores, but we'll see how they do, what their new strategy is with that. So to me, if you can be online, I mean, Black Friday that happened, nobody was there. No one was at the stores. So they showed video and nobody's really at Target. No one's rushing like, 10 years ago, everyone's rushing the doors and beating everybody up and pushing everybody to get the TV for the discount. So times have changed. And again, you've got to change with it.
Yeah, I love it. Well, thank you so much, Melanie. I love all your expertise. And I just, I have so many clients that either have a book or working on a book, etc. This is such an important topic. I think in today's world, with any endeavor you do, who you partner with is the critical element. Yeah. And you really have to wade through a lot of noise out there. So thank you for going deep with us on that. I'd like to pivot back to you personally, but before we do that, can you share with our listeners if they do have a book or they're writing a book, like in what ways do you work with your clients?
Great question. Thanks for that. So if you just have a couple ideas rolling around in your head, you can't decide what you should write about, we work with you. We do a VIP book creation day where we get anywhere from 6 to 10,000 words written. We get the book outlined, decide who your target audience is, and then from there you have your book, all the chapters, the words in the chapters, and then you have notes of what needs to go in there, whether it's more data, more stories, and you can continue on with a ghostwriter or a book coach or a co-writer to help finish that book. And then on the publishing side, we do audiobooks, hardback, ebook, and paperback books, and we do full publishing. But what makes us really different, besides the bestseller campaign, we do offer social media marketing where we post for our authors, email marketing, content marketing. We build websites, obviously, because Jen's a website developer for our authors. So we were saying the other day that we're really a marketing company that also publishes books. I think that's the way to look at it, and guarantees that you'll be a bestseller. So we help you from every step of the way to when you work with us. And we like books, like I said, that are inspirational and motivational, and we're a lot of fun to work with. We like to work with people that we like to hang out with, so not everyone is a good fit. And we're definitely not like the least expensive in the game for sure. We're definitely concierge level service, but then you know what you're getting. And you have to be careful out there. I get calls every week of some dicey calls that there's some people that just throw up a shingle and say they publish books and then they take people's money and they don't get anything. So really be careful when you're choosing your publisher and do your research. And I always say, make sure there's a face to the company, because there's these companies, someone just sent to me and I go, well, who owns the company? And then I called and I said, can you tell me who owns you? Well, why do you want to know? I'm like, okay. Like if you called us, you could call anybody on our team. They say, oh, well, Jen and Melanie own our company. Well, why do you want to know? Where are you located? What do you know? I was like, oh, this is just not good.
That's sketchy. No, thank you for that. I actually had a friend who was taken advantage of. So that is important to put out there. Yes. I love it. I love it. So, Melanie, as we wrap up, when I work with all female entrepreneurs, and I do that on purpose because my true purpose is to help them step back into their feminine essence and power, joy, peace, and love. And then amazingly, they make all this money when they're in that state. So that's how we increase their revenue. Very much like how you said, you can choose joy. So I love it. So I always like to wrap up the interview asking, when do you feel like you're most in your feminine essence and energy? Like what activity or what time?
Oh man, that's a great question, because I feel like over the years I've really had to tap into my masculine energy more than my feminine energy. Yeah, I would say when I'm dancing on the dance floor.
I love
at
it.
A party, the band's playing and we're dancing. That's probably the time that I feel most feminine again, and not having to have that hat on and going through so many different tribulations financially and coming out ahead, but then you still feel like gotta work hard, when you're tapping into that. So, and it's nice to remind yourself to tap into the feminine energy and remind yourself who you are and be that feminine person that you can know how to turn the switch on and off. I think it's important. I don't think it's easy to do, but if the more you do it, right, then the more you can be conscious of tapping into that feminine energy.
Yeah, I personally think it's critical to save women from burnout. So to be able to switch back and forth and to rest in their feminine energy sometimes. So I love that. So what color is your feminine energy?
Oh, pink. I'm wearing it right now. Rose. There we go. I've got sparkles on. My feminine energy is sparkles. Any color sparkle. If it sparkles, it makes me feel that way for sure.
I love it. Gorgeous. So, Melanie, I think you have a book too that can help our listeners. So, do you want to share a little about your book?
Yeah, the book right behind me, The Strategic Writing System. It's kind of like a nuts and bolts start to finish to help you write your book and publish your book. So I'll give you a link that you can put in the show notes that it will be a gift for all your listeners.
Awesome. Oh, such a nice gift. Thank you so much, Melanie. So if you're listening and you want to follow Melanie, you want to get that link, you want to stay in touch, check out our show notes. And here's an easier way to do it. Go to vixengathering.com/podcast. Just subscribe and share your email address with us. And every Tuesday and Thursday, all of the amazing resources from our guests are delivered to your inbox. So that's the nice, easy way to do it. So right now, just go subscribe and Melanie's link will show up for you. But if you're listening to this on a traditional podcast channel, check out the show notes and it's there. Awesome. As we wrap up, I always like to say the world needs more love, and I like to challenge our listeners how they can show up more loving today. So Melanie, what would your parting message be for everyone listening?
You know what? A smile. Go see how many people you can make smile with your smile today.
Oh, I love that. That's a great challenge for everyone listening. And for me, how can you show up in love? Here's what I'm going to challenge. When someone smiles at you, do you smile back? Even if you're in a grumpy mood or one of those moments, always return the smile, and that's how you can spread love. So I love it. Thank you so much, Melanie, for joining me today.
Thanks, April. It was a pleasure, and I hope I gave value to all your listeners.
Incredible value. Thank you so much. And for everyone listening, I'll talk to you soon. Thanks again for listening to the podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to hit subscribe so future episodes are automatically downloaded directly to your device. And if you want access to today's show notes, including links to all the resources we mentioned, visit vixengathering.com/podcast. Thanks again for listening, and I'll catch you next week for another episode of The Vixen Voice.